Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
We just found out 5 minutes ago that Charlie's not going to get her funding.
A mother's devastation after the province confirms they will not be funding treatment for her daughter's rare and fatal disease. Also,
Amazon was found to be anti-union, coercive, intimidating, a lot of pretty serious things.
Amazon workers in Delta have won their fight to unionize. It comes after the company was accused of union busting last year. Plus,
and how many times is it going to happen before we say, hey, maybe we could try doing something a little bit differently?
presumed drowning death of an international student reignites calls for better river safety in Kamloops, but the city says it's not that simple.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Janella Hamilton. Thanks for joining us. A Langford family has left in disappointment today as Mira Baines reports the Minister of Health says it will not approve the funding for a medication they claim is helping their daughter survive.
We just found out 5 minutes ago that Charlie's not going to get her funding.
10-year-old Charlie Pollock's mother says the family will be using money fundraised by the local community for expensive drug infusions to treat their daughter's Batten disease, a rare genetic disorder.
We're very gracious that the community knows the value of Charlie's life and they have enough money raised to give her 2 more infusions. So we're very grateful that Charlie will get to enjoy her summer.
Fail says she knows it's not a long-term answer and is trying to accept the decision. BC's Minister of Health reaffirmed Pollock would not be receiving drug coverage to treat Batten disease earlier today. Osborne has said the drug Brineura has been shown to lose its effectiveness as the disease progresses. It's given through an infusion of fluid to the brain.
I know that the outcome of this process is not the one that anyone was hoping for, most particularly Charlie's family.
Batten disease is also known as CLN2 and causes seizures, brain damage, and loss of mobility. The disease limits average life expectancy up to 12 years old if left untreated, but Brineura can allow patients to live into early adolescence. Osborne says she met with Pollock's parents last week to review further information about Batten disease, which was also submitted to Canada's Drug Agency. She says if the family decides to fund the medication privately, the local health authority will provide support.
Island Health is in dialogue with the family to enable this to happen, if that's what they decide to do.
Local Pizza in downtown Victoria says it will be donating 50% of Friday's sales and donations from staff and customers to help buy Pollock's medicine.
She's terminally ill, but she has a life, and as long as she has a life, let's give her the chance to smile.
She says a neighboring business is also donating $500. Charlie is the only child in BC diagnosed with the disease. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
Workers at an Amazon facility in Metro Vancouver have been certified to unionize. As Renee Lucas reports, it comes after the company was accused of union busting last year.
Workers here at Amazon's Annacis Island facility in Delta are now in a position to negotiate their first bargaining agreement. The BC Labour Relations Board has certified their organizing efforts.
So Amazon was found to be anti-union, coercive, intimidating, a lot of pretty serious things.
Workers started organizing amid concerns about safety, stable employment, and what they call the increasingly frenetic pace of production. Union accused Amazon last year of union busting at the warehouse, saying the company flooded the workforce to dilute the vote. But after 18 days of hearings, McGarrigle says
The BC Labour Board was very scathing in its opinion of how Amazon handled this and did the right thing and ordered the remedial certification.
In a statement, an Amazon spokesperson says the company plans to appeal. It says this decision is wrong on the facts and the law. It goes against what our employees have said they want and deprives them of their right to make an informed decision. It claims the Labour Relations Board chose to overreach instead of giving employees a chance to be heard. The move to form a union in Delta comes after workers at a warehouse in Quebec were certified to unionize in the spring of 2024. Then, in January of this year, Amazon announced it would shutter all facilities in that province over the coming months. In a statement, BC's Labour Minister Jennifer Whiteside says every worker has a right to join a union, and her ministry will be following the next steps in the process closely, committed to upholding the principles of BC's labour laws. Meanwhile, this labour expert says union certification isn't the end of the fight for workers.
There's some risk to them, of course, but yes, we'll be coming back to this in the future.
Beyond BC and Quebec, Amazon has only one other unionized workforce in North America, Staten Island, New York. It was certified in 2022 and still does not have a contract. Renee Lucas, CBC News, Delta.
The BC Wildfire Service is advising communities in the coastal fire centre of some approaching weather that could cause aggressive fire behaviour. Moderate winds and increased warming and drying conditions are expected to hit the coast in the coming days.
With this outflow pattern, we see a change in the wind direction. It will be coming from the east to west. And with that is bringing warm, dry wind and temperatures out through the mountains, via the fjords and the valleys out towards the water. With this, we see increasing temperatures, and we also see a lowering of relative humidity.
Johanna Wagstaff joins us now with a look at some of that wind activity. Johanna?
Yeah, Janella, this is the first time we are seeing this outflow setup. As you heard, when those winds go from east to west, we usually see this setup a couple of times where they really compress and dry out as we get this thermal low developing off coast. Now, this isn't until Tuesday. We are looking at warm and dry conditions for the next few days. I'll break down that weekend forecast, including a little bit of a dip in temperatures for Monday. This is really the Tuesday setup we'll be watching for. Today, temperatures hit 23 at YVR, a little warmer up towards Squamish and Whistler. Expect another couple of degrees over the days ahead, so I'll break down that full weekend forecast just around the corner.
Thanks so much, Johanna.
You're welcome.
Despite calls for action following the presumed drowning of an international student last Sunday, the city of Kamloops says it has no plans to add additional safety measures on local beaches. Jennifer Norwell has more.
I knew it was going to happen again.
Robert Griffiths knows about the danger of the river. Almost exactly a year ago, he jumped into the Thompson River to rescue 2 international students and nearly drowned himself. He was able to save both himself and the pair, but since that time, he's become an outspoken advocate for improved safety around rivers, especially improved signage.
It says swim at your own risk. Number 1. Number 2, it's totally defaced. Number 3, I mean, no diving, no jumping, strong currents, and drop-offs. That doesn't really effectively communicate how dangerous it is. It should be, don't swim here.
This past Sunday, a playful volleyball game turned into a tragedy when a ball went into the water. One of the players, an international student in his 20s, went in to retrieve it and got swept away. Despite efforts from his friends, the man did not resurface. Griffiths says he believes the cost of more signs closer to the water and life rings would be better than spending money on recovery efforts. But city officials say no changes are in the works.
We have signage along areas where we think it's reasonable to expect people may try to enter the river.
The city's even tried out life rings in the past.
It was difficult to maintain them. They were always being vandalized, they were being stolen, thrown in the river. If we're putting something like that in place as a safety feature, and then it's not there when people need it, it becomes negligence on behalf of the city.
The city says its focus will be on increased education about river safety through online information and radio ads.
We all make our own decisions, but I think people need to be spending more time understanding the education.
Searches for the missing student have continued since his disappearance, with first responders, police, and divers scouring the water.
You could put 1 million signs on this river or any other river or any lake, and I don't really think that makes a big difference. The big difference is to be educated.
Price reminds people that a ball, paddle boards, they're all replaceable, but people are not. Meanwhile, Griffiths says he'll continue to advocate for improved safety equipment.
If I can't get the city to put up life rings, then I will find a way to fund it myself, and I will put some up because I mean, it'll happen again, right? And how many times is it going to happen before we say, hey, you know, maybe we could try doing something a little bit differently?
Jennifer Norwell, CBC News, Kamloops.
For the first time in 8 years, BC is hosting a provincial Special Olympics Summer Games. Hannah Peterson spoke with some of the athletes in Prince George.
The Olympic spirit burning bright in central BC. Onlookers welcomed BC Special Olympics athletes as they ran the Olympic torch through the city, sparking 2 days of competitions.
It's nice to have that visual of passing the torch. You know, it makes it feel like it's a real Olympics.
The Special Olympics BC Summer Games offers athletes with intellectual disabilities from around the province a chance to compete in 10 sporting events, including track and field, 10-pin bowling, and basketball. It was created in 1980 and showcases athletes from young children to senior citizens. Corporal Jennifer Cooper from the Prince George RCMP carried the torch alongside the athletes.
We had people lining the route. We had people at all of our stops. People that were passing us honked their horns. So I think that was really uplifting for the athletes to have kind of that accolade.
Provincials in itself is a very exciting time, but to have it in Prince George after, I think it's been a little over 2 decades since the last time we did it. You know, that just ramps it up a little bit more.
Basketball player Chase Caron says she's thrilled the games are taking place in her hometown after so long and with so much support.
It is awesome, you know? Well, it just really shows like what a community is and how great it is, especially in Prince George.
Track and field athlete Marinka Van Haeg is also happy with the location.
We don't have to travel.
Organizers of these provincial games say they hope to host the national competition as well and are putting in a bid for Prince George to host the Canadian Games in 2030. Hannah Peterson, CBC News, Prince George.
We've named the best town, it's Kimberley. We've named the best lake, it's Sprout near Port Alberni. And we've named Metro Van's best neighborhood, it's Steveston. And if you've been listening and watching us, you'll know the guide to all these brackets is the one and only Justin McElroy. So Justin, what's it going to be this year? How are you going to top it all?
Janella, every year we do a different summer bracket determining what British Columbians think the best thing in the province is in particular categories. As you said, we've done lakes, we've done small towns, we've done neighborhoods. Now, symbols. We've chosen 64 different symbols across this province based on the hundreds of different submissions we got from British Columbians when we asked the question, what is the best symbol in BC? And starting Monday, over the course of 5 weeks, we'll do a series of one-on-one votes to get those 64 symbols from mountaintops to peaches to everything in between, put them to 32, 16, 8, 4, 2, until we decide the one that is the ultimate best symbol in this province.
Okay, we hit the streets, Justin, to find out what British Columbians think is our most iconic symbol. Let's take a listen.
When I think of British Columbia, I imagine nature, and I think here is a place that you can have a great quality of life.
The mountains and the ocean.
Fishing rod and a dogwood flower.
I think about the beautiful mountains. That's what I think of. And the landscape. It's amazing.
Like a tree, a big cedar tree, I'd say.
What comes to mind when I think of BC? Mountains.
Like an orca whale or like cypress and grouse and Seymour, like the ocean.
One of the things I notice whenever I'm somewhere else is I can't see the mountains. The mountains, whenever I look, when I was a little kid growing up here, I could always see the mountains. I could see it on my way to school. I can see it when I'm having fun. So I think those mountains are a big part of, like, you know, being here.
So Justin, did any of those picks stand out?
Yeah, well, we heard people talk about the orca, which you could see right there. We heard lots of mountains as well. We'll see about that, the red cedar, the dogwood. You know, a lot of connection to nature. Nature is one of the 4 quadrants here. We've got nature, animals, coastal symbols, and provincial symbols that people will be deciding on. It'll be interesting to see what people choose.
And Justin, I won't ask you to pick the winner, but maybe a few symbols you might think may make the Final Four?
Well, we can see one right here. The totem is something that is so known around British Columbia, it could do very well. But obviously, the people have to decide. Every time in these brackets, thousands of them choose one thing or the other that they rally behind. We'll have to see what British Columbians choose. That is the best symbol in this province this time around.
All right, thanks so much, Justin. A hike that went awry ended in good news. Up next, we hear from a missing hiker who rescued himself. One of two cyclists who were seriously injured in Prince George on Monday while training for the Cops for Cancer charity event has died. The hit and run happened on Monday morning around 9 while cyclists Shane Kelly and another rider were training for the annual ride. Both were hit by a pickup truck. RCMP say Kelly was hospitalized but died of his injuries yesterday. Those who knew him say his death has left them shaken.
It's something that we think about every time we get on our bike, right? Whether we're going to come home, and this incident really hit close to home. It's horrific.
The other rider, an RCMP officer, is in serious condition. The suspected driver of the truck was arrested and taken into custody. No word on the cause of the crash. A good news story about a hike gone terribly wrong. It involves a hiker who took an unorthodox route to a spectacular waterfall and a search and rescue effort that ended with a man they were looking for knocking at the door. Claire Palmer has a story of survival and ingenuity on Vancouver Island.
This is Della Falls, the second tallest waterfall on the island, requiring a 32-kilometer round-trip hike through rugged terrain and a water taxi to access. It was here that Dallin Beaumier, a hiker from Burnaby, was reported missing last week. A search effort was mounted, and Beaumier surprised those looking for him when he walked up to the search and rescue hall in downtown Port Alberni.
I was sitting in the office here at our hall, and I heard a knock at our back door, and I went and saw it, and there was the person I'd been looking at a picture of all day.
It was hilarious, man. It was like, they said they've never had someone walk in they were looking for, so it was pretty funny. So.
No, I look like Captain Ridiculous right now, but believe me, it's over 30 degrees.
Beaumier set out to conquer the hike early last week, but the path he took was unusual, trying to drive backwoods logging roads and bypassing the lake crossing. And while he got to the trailhead in one piece, it was on the way out that things went wrong.
Just started growling. He was going to pounce on me.
After spending a night trying to ward off a cougar, he got very little sleep as the cat stalked his campsite. And then his car broke down driving out, leaving him stranded.
The first thought I had was panic, like, oh crap, I'm really far, like, what am I gonna do? And then it was like, no, you're surviving now, so what do we do? And
Beaumier used parts from his vehicle to fashion a wagon, which he used to bring all his gear back to the Della Falls trailhead. Meanwhile, when Beaumier didn't turn up on time, his father contacted Alberni Search and Rescue, who dispatched a helicopter on Monday morning. Beaumier was later picked up by the Della Falls water taxi on Tuesday afternoon and brought to Port Alberni. So I'm here at the Great Central Lake Marina and RV Resort where the Della Falls water taxi operates. It's the recommended way that you get to and from the trailhead for the hike. I was actually personally here on Monday for a hike of my own. I was on the other end of the lake at the trailhead dock when I could see the search and rescue helicopter going overhead looking for the missing hiker. I shared that footage with Beaumier.
I sure stirred up the hornet's nest. How many stars do you think I'd get on GTA? No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, there it goes off to Della Falls.
Holy smokes. Yeah.
Search and Rescue says they won't be returning to retrieve the discarded items, but if they could bring back one thing.
It would definitely be interesting to collect that sled that he used and kind of hang that in our memorabilia area just as a little bit of a memento.
As for his car, it's still on the logging road.
I hate littering, but it belongs to the mountain now.
Search and Rescue give Beaumier credit for how prepared he was, but said next time he should bring a satellite phone and GPS.
We always recommend that you have the essentials, so ways to communicate, extra food, water, signaling devices, a trip plan, and in this case that was super important, extra communication devices.
Only one question remains. Was the ordeal worth it?
Oh my goodness, that Della Falls view, it's like a 3-tiered waterfall. Highly recommend it.
Claire Palmer, CBC News, Port Alberni.
The tide coming in over the sand in White Rock this afternoon. Plenty of beachgoers taking in the sun. Are there more of those days to come? Johanna Wagstaff has your weather next.
Wednesdays are officially the best day of the week this summer. CBC Musical Nooners have returned. Free concerts Wednesdays only. Head to cbc.ca/musicalnooners for all the details.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says he'll meet with his cabinet Tuesday to discuss ongoing trade negotiations with the U.S. It comes after Donald Trump's latest escalation of his tariff war against Canada. Evan Dyer has reaction from Ottawa.
I think it was fairly well received, but it's what we need.
Of course, Trump's letter was not welcome to the Canadian government, which had been aiming to reach a grand bargain on trade with the Trump administration by July 21st, 2 weeks from now.
The Americans were probably looking for Canada to put more things on the table to trade with, and we're probably getting frustrated as the deadline came up.
The government of Canada responded to the latest attack with defiance.
We're trying to make sure that ultimately, while the U.S. is becoming weaker, we will become stronger, and we will diversify and turn ourselves towards Europe.
Traveling in Asia, the U.S. Secretary of State said Trump intends to give every country a baseline tariff for trade with the U.S.
As the President's made clear, there are opportunities for adjustments based on arrangements that could be made between now and then.
And so they're probably going to be asking Canada for a baseline tariff.
The U.S. appears unlikely to agree to zero tariff trade with Canada, says this trade lawyer.
If Canada wants to hold out to say we'll never agree to any baseline tariff, I just don't think that's going to work. So I try to figure out some number, less than 10 and greater than 0.
But while the new tariffs are unwelcome, they've lost some of their shock and awe effect.
Every time things might not be very strong for the United States at the table, President Trump takes to either Truth Social or in this case adds a letter talking about tariff escalations.
One former Trump White House trade official says Canada should actually be glad to get such a letter.
I actually took it as more of a positive sign that the president specifically sent a letter to Canada, meaning he's focused on that negotiation and he wants to bring it to a head. I do think that we are likely to see a deal before August 1st. I am hopeful.
The dollar effect of these latest tariffs, if they go ahead, isn't fully clear. If they exempt goods that are compliant with the current CUSMA trade deal, the effect could be fairly limited. But as is so often the case, no one knows exactly what the White House is planning, and that seems to include the White House itself. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
As politicians work to negotiate a new trade deal, some Canadian businesses are facing a lot of uncertainty. Yasmin Khanea shows us what that can look like for a company.
Tariff threat after threat has left this BC manufacturing facility feeling boxed out.
Having these uncertainties have put a big brake on our plans to penetrate the American market.
U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening to slap a 35% tariff on Canadian products not covered by the Canada-U.S.-Mexico free trade deal.
The uncertainty, this constant changing of the goalposts, the unknowns around what will this be, what will it apply to, is quite toxic.
Economists and business experts say decision-making, investments, and hiring are all affected, but that the Canadian economy has been surprisingly resilient. GDP fell in April, but only contracted by 0.1%, and the economy added 83,000 jobs in June, the first increase since January.
Kind of seeing it from multiple different sources of information that these more severe downside scenarios, have yet to develop for the Canadian economy.
Experts say Trump's latest threat should add urgency to Canada's efforts to grow and diversify its economy.
Canada has an opportunity here to actually be one of the safe, stable, and productive economies if we get some of the fundamentals right at home.
In his letter Thursday, Trump took aim at Canada's tariff policies and trade barriers, once again calling out Canada's supply-managed dairy industry, a long-standing irritant of his. Dairy farmers say they're encouraged by the recent passing of a bill meant to protect supply management and will continue to work with Ottawa to support agriculture. One of the most significant impacts of this latest threat, it delays the deadline for negotiations to August 1st, giving Canada more time to try to get a good deal. Yasmin Khanea, CBC News, Vancouver.
Canada's unemployment rate fell slightly in June to 6.9% from 7% in May. The economy added about 83,000 jobs, the first net increase since January, but most of those jobs are part-time. The biggest jump in employment was in wholesale and retail trade, while the agriculture sector faced notable losses. Unemployment for young people returning to school in the fall remained high at 17.4%. Donald Trump was in Central Texas to get a first-hand look at the destruction from extreme flash floods. He also faced questions about what may have gone wrong. More than 120 people are now confirmed dead. Many more are still missing 1 week after the disaster. Katie Nicholson has more from Texas.
Next to a tower of debris, the president thanked first responders after personally taking in the devastation.
I've never seen anything like this. This is a bad one.
But he bristled when reporters asked about failures in the flood warning system.
Only a bad person would ask a question like that.
There have been many such questions since last week's devastating flash flood that killed at least 120 people. There are calls for investigations into how the Federal Emergency Management Agency dealt with the disaster. And reports that a new rule requiring the Homeland Security Secretary to personally approve expenses above $100,000 may have delayed FEMA's response.
I heard this, I would say, for the first time.
Texas Congressman Pete Sessions says he'll talk to the secretary about it. He believes more funding is going to be needed to help with the massive task ahead.
I want the President of the United States to understand this is critical and we can get this done by working together.
Even so, fellow Republican Chip Roy says other levels of government have to do their part.
But the federal government is not an ATM. Federal government, to do its job, stand up, help secure, be there with resources that are hard for a state and local to do. But we can do this. We're Texans.
Texas is fiercely independent. It has already raised $30 million in relief donations, but damage estimates have soared above $20 billion. In a community that has lost so much, there is hope that the president who once mused about axing FEMA understands how deep the need is.
Yeah, I really don't know anything about government or any of that. It's just my own opinion and heartfelt. More than anything, I feel like he needs to walk in our shoes. That's just how it is.
Authorities in the U.S. have agreed to release an Afghan refugee to be reunited with his family in Canada, but Ottawa is denying him entry, leaving him at risk of deportation to Afghanistan. Ithil Musa has the story.
Shafika Jalali and her family's escape from Afghanistan and Taliban rule was not easy. They didn't travel together, but somehow they all got to Canada and found refuge. Except for Jalali's youngest son, Mohammed Younisi. He is not doing well, says Jalali. He says he's gotten old and it's been almost a year that he's been there. There is here, this ICE detention facility just north of Houston, Texas. Younisi was arrested after being separated from his family in Arizona by ICE agents last September, and he's been at this immigration detention facility ever since. Younisi and his family paid human smugglers thousands of dollars to guide them through 10 countries and the Darien Gap, one of the most treacherous migration pathways in the world, to get to the U.S. and eventually Canada, where they have family ties.
A U.S. judge has granted Younisi permission to travel to Canada to claim asylum. But his lawyer's petition for a temporary resident permit to allow that to happen was rejected by the federal government in June.
It is absolutely not an overstatement to say that it is a matter of life and death. He is currently facing removal to Afghanistan.
According to a signed affidavit submitted to U.S. officials, 27-year-old Younisi fled Afghanistan after being kidnapped, beaten, and forced to work long hours in a field, all because he worked for an organization that helped women. Now, there's a very real possibility he will be sent back, putting his life in danger, says this refugee settlement worker.
Mohammed is one of those people who needs our protection. And with everything happening in the U.S., this is a time to say who we are and to do the right thing.
Canada's immigration ministry says it cannot comment on Younisi's case due to privacy legislation. Shafika Jalali is grateful her family has found safety in Canada, but it's hard to celebrate, she says, when her son's life hangs in the balance. Ithil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
The provincial courthouse in Tofino has been moved to the site of a former residential school. A First Nation spearheaded the move in a bid to indigenize the criminal justice system. It allowed CBC News to capture some moments from inside the courthouse. As Yasmin Khanea reports, the community says it's seen positive results from the relocation.
Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Bull presiding. Pronounce him. Title, Your Honor.
This is not a typical courtroom. Sessions start with a prayer. The judge sits at eye level with everyone else. And it all takes place in a building with a dark history.
This was all open area, so we'd have a basketball hoop set up here.
This used to be the gymnasium of the Christie Indian Residential School that Thomas George and many other children were forced to attend.
Lots of bad things happened there, and it's hard to talk about that part of it, right?
The school originally opened in 1900 on the nearby Mears Island. At least 23 children died there, according to the National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation. Students then moved to Tofino in 1971 before the school closed in 1983. The gym eventually turned into a conference center as part of a tourism resort owned by the Toloquiet First Nation.
This space has been used for a lot of more positive events that we've had, whether it's a potluck or weddings and celebrations of life.
The First Nation says despite its troubled past, the building has become comforting for community members. It's why they want justice to be served here.
We are changing the court systems so that they fit our needs instead of us having to adapt and work with their systems.
Members of the First Nation have formed a justice committee to support victims and alleged offenders, making the court process less intimidating.
It's not just a judge and Crown and our defense speaking. You actually see people stand up and say that they want to share something.
The committee also works to resolve minor offenses through traditional methods instead of going through the courts, hoping to reduce the overrepresentation of Indigenous people in the criminal justice system.
As long as the community is welcoming us, I'll do everything I can to support consistent participation, because it's a learning process. We get better every day, and every time we sit together and work together.
Toloquiet says it has an agreement with the provincial government to hold court on its territory until 2028, but the nation hopes it can be there permanently. Yasmin Khanea, CBC News, Tofino, British Columbia.
Dating reality show Love Island USA is generating a huge fan base and a lot of controversy. We catch you up on the latest from the villa after the break. A preliminary report into last month's deadly Air India crash describes confusion in the cockpit moments before the jet went down. The 15-page report says the fuel switch flipped from run to cut off, starving the engines of fuel. Officials did not say how or why it happened, but the report does say one pilot was heard on the cockpit voice recorder asking the other why he cut off the fuel. That pilot responded that he did not do so. 260 people were killed, including one Canadian. Johanna Wagstaff joins us now, and before she talks weather, we're going to talk a little bit about that report, Johanna, because you actually read it. What were some of the main takeaways for you?
Yeah, Janella, I think this report that we were expecting, we knew they had to put out a report 30 days after the incident, really eliminates a lot of those early speculation theories, including bird strike, engine failure, issues with the flaps. Just want to quickly take you to the control panel of the what that Boeing would have looked like. These are the two switches in question, going from run to cutoff. What's interesting, though, Janella, is that these aren't easy switches to move. You sort of have to lift them out of a locking position and then push them. So questions about whether this was an accident, whether this was deliberate, or whether this traces back to some issues that the Boeing had with that locking mechanism. 2018 report from FAA said something that Boeing should look into. So a lot of questions in the months to come. We may not see answers, though, for a full year, but I'll be watching. Okay, taking us back to our weather. Lots to talk about as we head into the weekend, and a lot of changes, as we mentioned earlier. Heat and changing winds are coming. We hit that 23-degree mark in Vancouver today. Tomorrow, look for another degree or two higher. You may have noticed out there this afternoon a few high clouds sneaking in. So I wanted to take you to the satellite. You can see those clouds coming from the northwest. That's with a system bringing showers up the coast tonight. You can see that showing up in green. This little low pressure system bringing some steady rain to Prince George. This approaching low pressure system will bring those showers back to central and northern coastal sections for Saturday. This high pressure, though, really trying to get in for the southern half of the province over the next few days. So you can see that departing low pressure system will clear things out for much of BC for at least one of the 2 weekend days looking good. That high pressure, again, really warming us up for the south coast, but keeping an eye on that system to the north. 19 tomorrow up towards Prince George. You can see the showers from Dease Lake down towards Prince Rupert. 26 in through Victoria and a 32 in through Cranbrook. All right, here we go. The 5-day outlook. Few high clouds tomorrow lingering for Vancouver. As we head into Monday, little dip in the temperatures, and then Janella, Tuesday, that's when we're getting back into that outflow, the heat. Some good news with a few things to look out for over the next few days.
Sun, and more sun. Yeah. Thanks so much, Johanna.
You're welcome.
The dating reality show Love Island USA has become a cultural phenomenon. Fans are gathering at bars where watch parties draw large crowds. But as Magda Gabrisalasa tells us, the show's massive success is also generating some controversy.
Hello, Islanders.
Love Island USA Season 7. It's the hit reality show racking up headlines and a huge following.
I'm just tired of looking like the bad guy.
With cameras currently rolling 24/7, singles secluded in a villa couple up, face off in challenges, and shoot their shot at a cash prize.
I love watching my little shows with hot people on the beach.
You can't look away. It just starts to get so messy, so much drama.
On almost every night, it's made the top 10 most watched streaming lists according to Nielsen ratings.
This has kind of become like, Sunday football in the way that it's like a community experience and people are wanting to talk about it, watch it together.
The show has come with controversy. 2 contestants were kicked off the villa after past online content of them using racial slurs came to light. Both have since apologized.
I completely agree with the network's decision to remove me from the villa. I think that this is something that deserved punishment.
Another issue, all the hate aimed at several contestants and their families. The production warning fans to stop the cyberbullying.
I don't think the fans or people behind the screen understand what it does to a person, and I think people just think that we're just a character.
Andrea Carmona does understand. Coming off last year's show, she says she faced a wave of hate online, including death threats. While the show provides contestants with therapy, she warns the harm is hard to shake.
It's something that you're always going to deal with mentally.
What? It's a harsh reality the remaining Love Island USA contestants may have to face once they leave the villa. The finale is set to air this Sunday. Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Toronto.
Every day as a kid, she watched her mom come home from work wearing heels, and she was dead certain she wanted to wear comfortable shoes rather. How a desire for comfortable footwear led to glass blowing for one Victoria artist. That's next.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC inbox.
Did you hear? CBC Musical Nooners are back. Free concerts Wednesdays at noon at the CBC Outdoor Plaza. To see who's playing this week, head to cbc.ca/musicalnooners and experience culture and flavors from around the world at the Surrey Fusion Festival, July 19th and 20th. Make sure to stop by the CBC tent to play games and win prizes. Details at surreyfusionfestival.ca.
It's a fiery passion, quite literally.
In this creator content piece, we meet Sarah Mulligan, and she introduces us to the complicated art of glass blowing.
Glass the material itself it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Glass is the boss though. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it, how good you are at it, you're just trying to direct it and guide it. But it has the final say on how it wants to reveal itself. It's high stakes. There's some high stakes to glass. Hi, I'm Sarah Mulligan, a glass artist living here in Victoria, BC. My first thoughts about what I want to do for a living was what I didn't want to do. My mom would come home from wearing heels. And I remember saying to the guidance counselor, I just want to wear comfortable shoes. And I went to the open house at Sheridan College, and I got to the interior design department, and everyone was wearing heels. And I was like, oh no, I don't think this is me. And then I was walking around campus, and I kind of got turned around, and I heard rock and roll music blasting. I followed the music, and there was the glass studio, and it's like kind of the portal window, and here I am peering through this window, and everyone's in blue jeans and sneakers, and that was that. Glass blowing does take focus. You're in an environment that is dangerous, and it's hot, and it's exhausting. The furnace is where the molten glass lives in a giant crucible, and then the glory hole is the heated drum where we go and reheat the glass. The hot shop tools we use, the main one is, of course, your blowpipe, which is a metal pipe that's hollow and that glass is gathered on, and that way we can blow into the blowpipe and inflate the glass. We fold up newspapers, and then you soak it in water and then char it with some glass, and it creates a carbon layer. And that carbon layer and keeping it wet allows us to shape and form the glass. And the water is a shield as well, so if I don't want my hand to burn, I'll actually dunk my hand in the water, and that is a little water barrier. There's an immediacy to glass. Timing in glass blowing is super important, and it's learning the timing of the glass when it's in its different temperatures. The nature bowl is one of my favorite things to make. It's really fun because even in the hot shop, I have to blow a nice big ball, but I have to then heat the nose of that ball hotter than the walls. I only get one chance, and I suck the air back, and it'll collapse into a hollow-walled bowl. And then that particular piece, it just is cracked off on the blowpipe. I incorporate ashes into glass. The cremation ashes, I need just a really small amount, and it turns a really nice bright white in the glass. Being able to hold a piece of your loved one in your hand is a really wonderful thing. There's an intimacy that it's really nice to be part of that journey. It's my book of inspiration, things that tickle my fancy, kind of working things out before I commit to the project. Lived in Owen Sound for 8 years of my life, and the Tom Thompson Gallery is there. So it's probably the first artist that I knew about as a kid. So it's kind of the whole Jack Pine tree. So that's sort of a starting point of some of the series I was working on, this sort of lonesome pine idea. And those are, you can still see in my work today. Here's another series I've been working on for many years, is trying to create a horizon line. When glass comes off the blowpipe, it can just be a nice soft lip. In that cold process, I carve and polish and put a nice curve on that, so it just kind of elevates the piece. The greater appreciation for all things handmade inspires, but also then fuels the need to create. Blowing glass is only part of the magic of glass. The cold shop is a very necessary part of finishing, so what happens in the hot shop is then finished in a cold shop. So when those bowls come off, they're very sharp and gnarly on the bottom, and they have to be ground and polished. Then the hole I have to often make larger, but I also have to take the really sharp razor edge out. There's so much we can do in post-production to make something super simple into something very elegant. Setting up with the Lunera, first I kind of do a batch where I peel the skins off. I could definitely have to take that little seed off. There's this real sort of gentle handling of the material in order to create these bowls. My experience of being a glass artist as a woman has been super positive. Even before I became a glass blower, there was sort of a mentor to me, and it was cool to see a single mom, independent woman, business owner doing it, because there weren't a lot of those women in my world at that age. So she was definitely an inspiration to me.
The items that I create and put out in the world, you know, I want to be proud of, and I want them to have a little bit of me in them.
Someone might see my nature bowl and you're like, how is that made? Like, I think it's important to kind of create those items that capture an imagination, keeps you on your toes, for sure. The glass that I make, it's that functionality of people enjoying it and it's part of their lives. We want things that are made with love and care and things made with intention. That's important for people to have those things in their lives.
Such beautiful pieces, truly. Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. You can watch this newscast on CBC Gem, our free app, as well as on YouTube and our website, cbc.ca/BC.
Johanna and I will have your next local news at 11 right after the national. Have a great night.
Good night.